How's it going, everybody? This is Jay Leno. I am here with my good friends Spencer and Mike. With what's the name of you guys' podcast again?
Ninja Turtle Power Hour.
Ninja Turtle Power Hour. And I'm gonna put the link up right now. Let's see here. Boom. Okay. I'm gonna. I guess we're gonna start with the beginning with you guys. So how'd you guys start off?
So for me, I don't know, probably about 8 or so years old when I started watching the 2003 show on Saturday mornings. And so I watched that for years and years and years until I saw Turtles Forever and learned that there were comic books, and I've just done a deep dive and have been super into Ninja Turtles ever since.
Nice, nice. How about yourself, Mike?
So I have been in with the franchise for almost 40 years. In fact, the comic is just 1 year older than me, almost exactly. So I'm just one of those born and bred Ninja Turtles guys that's just been around forever. Spencer was kind enough to put out a casting call in one of the Facebook groups a couple of years ago, and that's how he and I got hooked up with doing our show. Uh, and because he had started it, I guess, and then the original host wasn't up to snuff, so he put out a casting call, and it was honestly like him and I were talking, like we talked for like an hour and a half, just going going through this audition to be on the show, and thankfully, yeah, like me and then our other co-host Keith, we were holding the show down for 2 years, and then we just brought on our newest co-host Cody, and yeah, so we just hit 150 episodes on the podcast, so we've been doing that since 2021.
Yeah. So yeah, 2020, 2021, around that time, it was definitely during the pandemic times when I looked into getting the whole thing going. And so yeah, pretty much the goal was to try and cover all of Ninja Turtles. So we've made it through the '87 series. We've covered all of that. We've covered all of Volume 1 and 2 of the Mirage comics, as well as the Image era. Urban Legends is what it's been reprinted as at IDW. So we've made it through quite a bit of Ninja Turtles talking about it. We hope to one day get all the way caught up on IDW so we can cover it as it comes out.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah. I guess much like Mike, you and I might be around the same age. I'm 34, so I started probably around that time. Started off with the TV show, of course. Probably in the last 5 years, I started catching up with the comics, and then I like gained a huge fascination. I already liked the shows, but like going into the Mirage and how dark it was, I was able to really indulge into being an adult and liking the turtles a bit more. Um, I've I like Mirage. I definitely like Mirage, but I've grown quite fond of the IDW series because I feel like it's a little more intricate of a storyline than what I'm accustomed to, especially with like Mutant Town, and I guess the way they did the Dragon Scale with Shredder kind
Mm-hmm.
of it kind of drew me in. And then just recently, last week, I got if you guys are familiar with the Body Count issue 1.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we covered that.
You did? Okay, so yeah, yeah. So I just recently read Body Count issue 1. So like I'm traveling time as well, going in and out of that. That I found that to be kind of fascinating. And then of
Yeah,
course,
body count is just like a is even its whole own thing, and how dark, like how I guess gritty that kind of gets. It's played in a very over the top fun way, but it's also very very gory, you
Yeah,
know.
like it's very
yeah,
much like unfiltered Kevin Eastman.
it's it's
Uh,
Yeah.
it's, it's Kevin Eastman and dang near Michael Bay as
yeah,
as,
Yeah.
it's
as
Kevin
you
Eastman
recall.
making the action movie he always envisioned for Casey Jones.
Mm.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's just it's wild. And I've
Well,
talked about it on the show, like my experience with Mirage. Like the first issue I picked up, was back when I was think it was like 11, 12 years old, and it was the first issue of Soul's Winter, which I don't know if you've read that. That's part of the guest era of Mirage Volume One, so it's not really canon to um, Mirage, like the Kevin and Peter stuff. And it's like this is like pretty pre-internet, so I didn't know what I picked up. All I knew was that like this was not the Ninja Turtles I was used to, and it's just kind of like what the hell,
Yeah.
because it's a wild issue, and so that kind of sparked my interest of going back, years later, to kind of figure out where it all came from. And Spencer thankfully gave me the opportunity on this show to really sit down and read Mirage and analyze it for the first time. Because everybody's read issue 1, but how many people have read past issue 4? And that's a thing we talk about a lot on our show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, um,
But the
yeah.
the big origin of how body count happened is that Kevin Eastman and Simon Bisley, the artist, were good friends, and they pretty much said, "What if we make a Ninja Turtles John Woo?" Like he showed Simon Bisley a whole ton of John Woo films, and so they're like, "What if we make a Ninja Turtles John Woo film, but a comic book about, yeah, Casey and Raphael?"
So
So that's kind of where you get that action
I
pulpiness
watched some,
from.
I watched some other discussions, and apparently not everybody approved of the body count issue when it came out in 1996. And like its imagery itself, and I mean Kevin Eastman and the other gentleman that you're talking about, they had that moved over to Image Comics.
Yeah.
So
So
I don't know if it was the art that made it do that, or was it the content being more mature itself? Because Image does kind of take that risk as well.
yeah, I think it had more to do with that at the time Mirage Studios didn't really have an ongoing series going on, and so they just kind of had made a deal with Image that they could print the comic there and have their own writers and stuff kind of take over it. So I think it just kind of changed publishers for the time being.
Okay.
I know that during a period of time there was like a flood at Mirage Studios that they were dealing
I
with.
was just
I
about
think
to
that
ask that too. I was just about to
yeah,
ask if that was during the flood.
it could have been. I know that Volume Two, it was around in the middle of Volume, no, not the middle, but close to the end of Volume Two when that kind of happened. Um, but like I said, I think it was just kind of the shifting of publishers. I think Mirage Studios may even have been losing money printing comics, and so they made a deal with Image, and Image
Yeah,
picked
and
him up. And
Peter's been pretty open about, especially when he was doing Volume 4, how much printing it on his own was really losing them money. And that's why like
mhm.
some issues of Volume 4 were only available in digital. So
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's
it,
one that was available from his website. The
that's what
rest
I
was
meant.
like mail order.
But it's like super low print runs. So and he's talked about it on his blog, like I said, where they were losing money on it. And I mean, a lot of people forget that like Ninja Turtles was like very much a small indie comic. Like
Yeah.
they were basically doing everything in house,
I mean,
and there was like
hence they killed
4 people
Shredder in the
running
first
it.
issue.
Yeah, I mean it was just, I mean it's called Mirage Studios because like it was an illusion. Like it was 2 guys in an attic.
Like they're the independent. They're literally the epitome of like an overnight success off of one ad run and $1,200 bought from their uncle. Like
Yeah.
Yeah,
it doesn't
yeah, it's
it doesn't
wild to look at like
it doesn't
where
get any
we've,
better than that, man.
yeah, like it's wild to see like where it's come from, like where it was and then what it is now.
Yeah.
So
Okay. We can dive deep into this a little bit because I do want your opinions. So, how do you guys feel about? Do you think both Peter and Kevin were happy with making that deal with? Would that be Viacom when they pretty much syndicated the Turtles and moved them on to like TV shows?
you mean like when Nick took over, or like
Um,
when
I
they
think
I'm,
he's
made
talking
I'm,
about
let
when
me
they
when
let
made
me
the
when
original
they
cartoon?
I think
I'm,
when they made the original cartoon with Fred Wolf
Yeah,
Studios.
yes, yeah. So when it went over
Oh
to
yeah,
Fred
yeah.
Wolf, yeah. Do you feel like that Peter and Kevin kind of had some regrets with their baby? I mean, of course they enjoyed the money, but
Mm.
like, do you think both of them kind of bumped heads about some of the changes they had to make to their original characters?
I think that this is purely speculation. I don't know. I'm pretty. I don't like, I guess, going too hard on people that are still living and can kind of answer these questions themselves. But Peter definitely does seem to voice some regret when it comes to it, how much it affects the way people view Ninja Turtles, which was kind of his baby and his creation. I think it bothers him more than it does Kevin Eastman, because Kevin Eastman
Yeah,
hardly said
I
a word
think
about it.
yeah, I think Kevin enjoys it enough. Like when you look at the two, um, Kevin and Peter, they really do mirror Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, with Kevin kind of being more the Stan Lee, like being in, you know, being the kind of the face of it, and he and really kind of, put anything in front of me, I'll sign it. I really enjoy just being part of this and showing off the turtles and like all of this stuff. Because I mean, he's vocal about how much he likes, new stuff all the time. Like he was vocal about how he liked Rise and Mutant Mayhem, like stuff people wouldn't think he would have been attached to, but he's like, I like it. Peter is a lot more reserved, and he very seldom gives interviews. He was The only way to talk to him was on his blog for the longest time, and a lot of it is just because he didn't really he's more sad that his vision was diluted, like Spencer said. Like he had a very specific idea for the kind of stories that he wanted to tell, and he got his chance to do that when he was doing volume 4 by himself, and then with episodes of the 2003 TV show, because that was pretty much all him.
Yeah, he
I mean,
pretty much steered
and
that
the people
at
at Four Kids,
least
but
up
it's like,
until the sixth season.
no, I think that Fast Forward was 100% Peter.
It might have been like, I think he gave notes, but I don't think it was. I think that after the stories from the original Mirage comics, like up through volume 1, were told that he was kind of. I think the show itself was kind of like, yeah, we can just kind of do whatever we want now.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm obviously joking, Spencer. And
Yeah,
that's what we do on our show. We joke a lot, and
The-
sometimes Spencer falls for it a little too much.
when I went to C2E2 last spring, I had a little bit of a conversation with Kevin Eastman, and I was just kind of asking him about Peter, and like Peter's wants to be with his family, but he's kind of crossing his fingers with trying to do Peter-esque to see if he can motivate Peter. But then when I recently saw, I guess the last time Peter had made a video introducing the Last Ronin 2 series, he also took in new writers and new ideas too. And I don't know, we might see Peter, who knows? But I think
hmm
Peter's kind of reserved.
yeah. He's appeared in some interviews with a channel called Comics Kayfabe on YouTube.
Okay.
Recently. That's been fairly recently. So they've gone through those first few issues page by page, uh, with Kevin Eastman there for a lot of them, and they kind of discuss those original Mirage comics and things about them and details.
Yeah.
So he seems
Yeah,
like he is pretty excited about things.
and with next year, 2024 being the 40th
What's up, Bondo?
anniversary,
We're doing a TMNT discussion.
it was a hey, how's it going, dude? So with 2024 being the 40th anniversary of the franchise, like this is the perfect opportunity for kind of Peter to maybe step back into the ring, and we do get a final, tale of the TMNT from Kevin and Peter, before Peter finally like fully retires. Because I mean, Peter's been unofficially retired for the last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
But yeah, in those interviews with Comics Kayfabe, he said that he wants to be that guy that always has a sketch pad with him again and is always drawing and doing things. So,
Yeah,
you know, you never say never. That's I guess that's the big thing that we're getting
That
at, is
that
that maybe
room
it's
is going to
possible.
pile up as well. So
hmm
we'll see, when he does come, and then I mean I guess that's an easy way to segue into the IDW series going to 150, and so I guess before I dive into the IDW series, do you guys have any visions on what's to come? I mean, do you think TMNT will have another series they're going to start, or is the focus going to be like on the last run and two from this point on?
so this is something that we've talked about a lot on kind of in our bonus content. So the way our show works is like we have a very structured show about where we talk about our topic, but then we also record our kind of off the cuff discussion before the show and a little bit after the show, and we put it at the end. It's called our bonus content, and that's where we kind of dig into things that aren't related to the episode. And so we've talked about like kind of our plans for post 150. I'm on team no reboot.
Mm,
Like I think Spencer's on my team too because
Yeah, there
he and I kind of
there
agree
could
on this. Like the Turtles is so used to rebooting this franchise that it I think that because we have such a rich world with IDW, like I want to see them take this as far as they can, and I know there's a lot more gas in the tank.
Yeah. Well, there's still lots of different things they can pull from different shows that were really great ideas and that are good things, like the Battle Nexus. Like they used that in an annual, uh, but like the Battle Nexus in the 2003 series is a really cool idea, and that annual just didn't fully use it, but they could use that. There's lots of different concepts and things like that from different books that they could try and pull out and make more stuff with. It's possible that with all this time travel stuff that they're gonna try and do maybe a soft reboot, mess with the timeline a little, see what happens with the turtles. I think that it sounds like from everything that I've read so far, they still have plans for things post 150. I
see
just don't
that?
think they.
Yeah, that's kind of what my vision is. I could I could possibly see with the time travel that they've been showing with Armagon and in the split that they had, was that 143 when they left the city and split?
Yeah, it's the end of 143.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
one. Yeah, yeah. So 143 when they did that split, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing like everybody's story kind of excelling past there and like webbing away into its own thing because it almost feels like, I mean, the separation of their core group. Everybody has their own personalities, whereas you got Venice and Donatello, you've got Mikey still in the city. You have, episodes of that being a continuation. I think that would pique my interest. I'd still be locked in.
And
Yeah,
and like that's the kind of stuff I want to see. And again, this is another thing we've talked about on our show. Like the the turtles, like the world is very rich, and this we think this world can support kind of like a secondary title of just kind of exploring the world. We've talked about like the Nova Posse getting their own book, for example, kind of being the Guardians of the Galaxy of Turtles, and maybe Leo hooks up with them for an arc or so, kind of like Captain Marvel did, where she left Earth and Tony Stark left Earth, and they joined the Guardians. It was back in the mid 2010s. And seeing the turtles kind of grow up and split apart, like this is uncharted territory for this franchise. It like I said, it's so used to rebooting when it gets to a certain point that it's like we're telling new stories, and I want to see where this goes, because the last time we saw the turtles, like in volume the Mirage Turtles, there's a 15-year gap between volume 2 and volume 4. So it's like, what happened in that in between? And we have Tales of the TMNT to kind of fill that gap, but also in IDW we have the ongoing. We don't need a Tales of the TMNT to do that.
I
We can
agree.
just tell those stories, keep going. Now the flip side of that is you got new people who are, like, oh, there's a TMNT comic book that's still going on. Where's Shredder and Krang?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I get that. Um, but that's the thing, is like Shredder and Krang are only really huge if you've watched the cartoons and the movies. But like if you've ever read Mirage, Krang's not there and Shredder dies in the first issue. So it's
I
like
mean,
they're not important. They've never really been that important to the comic book turtles.
Shredder does come back for like one of the biggest arcs as well as for Return to
Well, a
New York.
clone of Shredder.
And yeah, a clone, but it's also kind of him. It's a way to bring him back.
But
But
you know what I mean, though. Like
yeah, yeah. And
there's
City of
so
War is
many.
all
Yeah.
about the fallout from that.
My
Yeah.
preference of a villain is the Triceratons. Like as
They're a
far as
cool villain.
they go, as far as they go with that, I mean, it'd be an immediate threat and like everything that goes in there. I guess expanding onto the Ultrams as well beyond New York City. I like that. I'm already like into DC and Marvel, and again, like I had said, the direction that IDW is going from here and just expanding their content, it's going to pique my interest. I don't know as far as you know the world's perception of how it's going to work out for them, but I'll be excited.
Yeah, no, I would too, because back from like issues 1 to 100, when Tom Waltz was on the book, there was a side series that was written by different guest writers and things called TMNT Universe, and that just told all sorts of stories about like different side characters or just smaller adventures for the turtles that weren't a part of the main series. Like if they could bring that book back, that would be awesome. Like because there's a lot of those side characters that are out doing things right now that I'd love to hear about. Members of the Mutanimals like Mondo Gecko and Seymour
Mm.
Guts who are out there,
And Pigeon Pete.
and Pigeon Pete.
Pigeon Pete.
Well, I
Well,
mean, we know where Pigeon Pete is because we he does appear in the issues that we're going to talk about tonight.
yeah.
Yeah,
Remember, well, I mean, I would spoil it. He's in L.A. with Sari and Sally.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call it. Well, I wouldn't worry about spoiling it at this point. I think this issue is going to come out tomorrow. So, okay, the question I had was, what was the name of that pink bandana turtle?
Lita.
Lita. What's her origin?
so back when the mutant bomb went off, they created like all the mutants that are Mutant Town. She was mutated. She's like just a child, and the turtles found her and kind of have adopted her. Uh, at a certain point, a Lita from the future shows up and tries to get Jenica to form a band so that the timeline won't become as dark in the future. It won't become this dark, bad timeline. And you learn that Lita is an apprentice timstress to Renette, who is now like higher up in the ranks of the Time Lord people.
Because y'all, I'm trying not to spoil. Again, I didn't start till about issue 127 into the IDW series, and I'm seeing characters that I'm unfamiliar with, and I mean,
Yeah,
hence why I reached out to you guys. I'm like, okay, I really want to. I'm trying to get the spark notes to this situation. I'm trying to get.
And
Eventually,
that's
I'll
what
get there.
and that's one of the cool things about IDW is because it is such a melting pot of references from all across every version of TMNT, especially with like Sophie being the main writer on the book for everything past 100. Like she's original Mirage crew, or I mean, she was on the Volume 4 Tales of the TMNT Volume 2 days. Um,
yeah,
I mean, she worked for Mirage. Like so a lot of the concepts and stuff that she is bringing to the book, it really it really does kind of feel like stuff that would have been in the original comic had if that was still going on, or if she had done it back then. So it is kind of always fun to also see new characters pop up. Like Lita doesn't have a Mirage counterpart or really any other version. Like
yeah.
she
She's the original one.
to
Mhm.
IDW.
So okay, we got. So yeah, I see. She's gonna be a familiar face to you guys. Definitely a new face for me to see. And another character I wanted to get a little information on was was that Bob?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob. So he comes from the Ninja Turtles Adventures comic books that were published by Archie.
Seriously, he
So
was in Archie's?
Yep.
yeah, just at the very end, he just appears. He doesn't really do anything, but he's one of future Leonardo's students, because future Leonardo has a whole bunch of students that are learning martial arts from him. Carmen is one of those too, and it looks like there's a character they left out that I believe his name was Miles, that was another one of his students. So they just kind of have Bob and Carmen, who are this Leonardo's
M-
students.
Miles kind of looks like Carter from the Red Sky seasons of the '87 cartoon.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, and who's the gigantic female bird?
So that's
Oh, Koya.
Koya. And Koya was one of Shredder's first mutants. Way back. God,
Do
I
you guys
forgot
know
how
how to
long
spell
ago Koya
Koya? I'm trying
appeared.
to get an image of Koya.
Yeah, she so her and there's a giant hammerhead shark named Bludgeon.
Okay,
And those two have been
how's
kind
Koya
of
spelled?
Koya. And God, she was all the way back in City Fall Part 4. So that's issue 25, way back 10 years ago in 2013. Um, and
She hasn't
that
made an
was
appearance recently. I hate
she.
to interrupt, but
Oh, no,
per-
no, no. Go ahead.
Mhm.
I mean, periodically into this road to 150, um, I don't, I don't remember seeing her that much.
So her and Bludgeon have been kind of sidelined since issue 100,
Okay, okay, okay.
when the Foot Clan kind of finally, fell apart after um, a lot of big spoilers in that issue. Um, but they were really heavily tied in with the Foot Clan. So since post 100, Bludgeon and Koya kind of didn't have a purpose. They, Bludgeon is more of a pacifist and kind of a monkish character, and Koya is always really angry, and she's basically a version of Raphael, you and she in the Armageddon game was when they finally kind of started coming back out, and Karai had recruited them for her team as part of the Armageddon game event. And I think right now she's not taking them with them, um, as she goes off to kind of start her own new Foot Clan, which is going to be that book that's going to be coming out later next year.
Mm.
Okay. And has her and Leonardo ever had a thing?
They've never had a thing like a romantic thing. It was more of like a big rivalry. Um, because I
Yes,
think did isn't Leah responsible for her losing her feathers?
yes. So in way back in the it's called like a gauntlet, pretty much the vengeance arc of the IDW series. The turtles fight in a gauntlet, and so they get put up against Koya and Bludgeon, and so Leo ends up chopping up her feathers on her wings so she can't fly anymore. So she kind of hates him for that. Plus, she already kind of seems to be a bit of a sadist. But it's suggested at post 100 when Lita comes from the future that Koya and Leonardo are together in the future. Um,
Okay, okay,
it hasn't like officially happened in any capacity yet, other than that.
okay. So I mean, this is a bit of a bit of a review to lead up to what's to come. Just to make reference to people who will be interested in getting tomorrow's issue of 147. Okay. So, all right. I guess now I'll probably like to go and reference the 2023 annual issue that came out this year,
Mm-hmm.
and how the image that they show, well, basically how Raphael had traveled in time to warn the turtles about Donatello using magic and how it could ruin the existence of the turtles. Period. And so we spoke on this earlier, but right now that we're live, uh, how do you guys believe? Okay, I haven't seen any signs that from Raphael's appearance that his appearance in that issue is candid leading up to where we're at now, because it doesn't seem like they're taking much precaution with Donatello using these spells. It doesn't. Unless, have you guys seen a concern that they've had of Donatello leading to their demise?
Yeah, they seem like they kind of have ignored that future Raph and blamed it on something else. Part of that could just be because typically on annuals, it's a different writer that writes the annual than the main writer on the series. So it could be that Sophie had already written her issues and never addressed that fully. But also, I just think that they probably just thought it was a crazy weird thing that happened, and I guess they haven't really listened to future Raphael.
So, because I
Yeah,
was
because it's weird because if you look at the chronology for IDW that's on Turtlepedia, because it's updated, all the way up to 147. The 2023 annual is not part of the chronology,
Wow.
so it's kind of up in the air if this is gonna be tied into that or if it's just kind of a cool one-off story like some of the other annuals have been.
Mm.
Like the Juniba one from a couple years ago. That was kind of its own thing.
I do think that that annual does tie into this though, because he's trying to warn him about Donatello
Most
creating
definitely.
Armagon by traveling to the past.
Yeah, so like
Most definitely.
it could be. I mean, and Turtlepedia, this isn't an official chronology or anything. It's just one of the most upkept ones.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be in there, and if they choose to reference it, and if that future raft does come back in some way, like obviously they'll add it to this list. But yeah, like you make a good point. Like it does feel kind of like they it's not part of the story that they're trying to tell, but also kind of yes.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like it feels like a continuation, even though yet it is in annual. That's one of the confusions that I've had with this because at the end of that issue, Donatello gets killed in the snow, with some Foot Clan arrows, and then try not to spoil this. I don't know if that same Raphael ties in to the future turtles that Donatello and Venus with it while they're traveling in time are these same turtles in that timeline.
So the last Ronin, are you talking about the last Ronin with Donatello dying by getting shot by arrows?
No, 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 no,
Oh
no,
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 because
no.
in the
In
annual
the
it
annual,
shows
in the annual.
Donatello's
Oh,
death,
okay.
oh,
but
that was Donatello. I thought that was Raphael that was hit with the arrow.
Raphael. I mean, sorry, I thought you
Yeah,
said Donatello.
well,
if I did,
In Ronin they both were. Like Raph was the first one to die, and then he was like full of arrows when him and Karai like fought, and
I was
then
I was referencing the annual the
yeah, but
way.
you're referencing the annual.
I just got
And that was
confused.
Donatello that died in the snow, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was Raphael that split apart.
Oh, my bad.
Raphael, yeah, remember Raphael traveling in time? He split apart from them because they said, "Hey, we're going to stop Donatello," and he was like, "All right, cool. I don't have to kill Donatello anymore." And then he like veered off by himself, and they just showed him getting ambushed by some foot soldiers. But, okay,
Yeah. No, so I get what you're talking about now. I got mixed up. I thought you said Donatello earlier. So yeah. I need to look at that annual again because it's been a little bit since I've read it.
Yeah.
I meant to go over it before now, but I'm a I'm a new father with a child that I'm trying to figure out how to help.
Yeah, Spencer, why didn't you do your homework?
I'm not holding. Well, first off, I'm not holding you that accountable. Obviously, I don't know that
Yeah.
much either. But I did prep a little bit.
No,
With you guys.
we like to joke. We like to joke on our show. Like I said, we're all buddies.
I got you.
Yeah. We give each other a hard time quite a bit.
Hell, most of our research is done when one of us will say something, and then it'll go off on a tangent, and we have to research it right there. So there's
Well, mhm.
countless researching minutes that Spencer has to edit out every week.
Yeah, well, that's what I had told Spencer before we had started up. I was like, look, we want to live stream it. I prefer to keep things raw. I mean, I prefer just to be raw and unfiltered, and we just bring our minds together. It just feels more organic
No,
anyway.
not good. That's good. That's why I was excited to do this when I saw you post about it on Facebook. I was like, yeah, no, hell yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah. So do you guys? So all right, so we're about to have 147, and we're going to 150. So are there? Do you do you think these next what'll be two these next two issues are we ever going to see what Mikey's going through in New York?
I hope so. I love seeing. I want to know what heck goes on with everyone. I think we probably will. I don't think they would just completely drop any of the turtles. I think that most of the focus will be on Donatello, but I think we'll get to see the what each of the ones are doing.
Yeah, because I think Mikey kind of needs something to do now that the whole stuff with Dr. Barlow's done, and that was kind of his like moment in those five and from 140 to 145 was like getting him to come around and recognize that mutants are his people and he needs to use his platform for good. And then by the time he does that and he sees that like, hey, I could have been helping people, uh and that I think that's going to kind of light a fire in him. And so when we do see him again, I really hope that's a thread that kind of continues. um but yeah, like Spencer said, I think Donatello is kind of the main focus right now, because I think Armagon is really what the whole like road to 150 event is going to be like. I think Armagon, for better or worse, is going to be the one that kind of sets our new status quo going forward.
About this. Well, without spoiling too much, I have a lot of questions, especially afterwards. And if let's say if you guys don't cover it on you guys' stream, I'll probably be in you guys' inbox on Facebook probably Wednesday evening to have some questions. Get some questions answer, or at least some opinions. Because again, are these holes into different dimensions that we're about to go into? Um,
Yeah,
like
right now, since we're messing, it seems like we're messing mostly with time. So I think we're definitely jumping timelines and probably creating branching timelines. How much of like whether that's like a multiverse or not, I guess, is debatable. But I think we're definitely heading into branching timeline stories.
Yeah, because as anybody who's watched Turtles Forever knows, there is a Turtles multiverse out
yeah,
there.
yeah,
So
Mm.
yeah.
I like kind of like Spencer said, like the TMNT shenanigans that happen in IDW are more time shenanigans more than dimension hopping shenanigans. And that's
Okay.
kind of another
Well,
problem, is that the word dimension kind of has different meanings in Turtles.
mm,
Like
there,
sometimes it's an entirely different universe, and sometimes it's just another solar system.
yeah, well, there's dimension hopping because there's quite a bit of that with the Ghostbusters crossover and going to Dimension X. But
Sorry,
it's
but I meant like I was talking about like there's not going to be a crossover with like 2012 Turtles or something
oh yeah, I mean
with the IDW Turtles.
there may be a crossover with Mirage one day. I think that would be kind of cool. There's a lot of multiverse stuff going on right now though, so I hope that we don't
Yeah.
dig too far into that.
There's a high
Yeah,
volume
Yeah,
of that.
multiverses are hot right now.
yeah,
In kinder words, hopefully not.
yeah. But I don't know. I guess I like differing between. I know that like the MCU explains branching timelines as the multiverse, but I don't know. In a world more like DC's, they've got multiple Earths that are all like in different universes, but having different universes isn't the same thing as like having a different timeline for them, uh, kind of thing. So I don't know how they're if they're going to differentiate it at all, or if it's going to just be that different timelines is just a multiverse, or who knows.
That's the big question mark, and it insinuates, but it doesn't necessarily answer the question with 147, um, as to existence post death. That's going to be the big question mark leading into this. So,
Okay, I'm excited. I'm excited for the next two issues. Like I was reading through 140 to 145 last night. I was telling the guys, I was like, this is great. I think Sophie's on fire.
were you like freshening up, or like you literally had just started like reading those?
So I hadn't read the comics since we finished our Armageddon game recap earlier this year.
Okay.
So I had 140 to 145 kind of like in my pile of comics, because I buy all my comics monthly.
Okay.
Um and physically, so they're sitting in a stack, and when we were going to do the show, I was like, all right, now's the perfect time for me to kind of binge read them all. And uh, I'm glad I did, because like it was a good chunk of, kind of info dumps, and the whole Dr. Barlow stuff was really exciting. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I know Spencer kind of has a different opinion
I
on
like
it.
I like the Dr. Barlow stuff. I just felt like the ending of all of it was super fast and anticlimactic. Like it just kind of like went boom, all in one issue.
And
It's
so
done.
and so I
You know.
and so I went into it knowing Spencer's opinion, and I feel the opposite.
Hmm.
I don't mind that it ended in a single issue, because kind of the whole issue was about it.
Yeah.
Like I think the payoff, I think it paid off pretty well. I think, and I think the fact that everybody was there, and kind of Venus, being the ace in the hole, uh, I really enjoyed it.
Did you want
Um,
a did you well basically you wanted a bigger like main boss battle fight with the Barlow Spencer? Is that kind of how you felt about
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I've been asking myself that question, like, what more did I want from it? You know, because there was a lot of cool stuff that came out of it, like Dirtbag and Ground Chuck being mashed together,
oh
and
God,
that?
and those two
It
are my
was so
boys. So I was
gruesome.
like,
It was pretty graphic and gruesome. Yeah.
those two
yeah,
are my boys, and so seeing them kind of this like weird homunculus kind of thing really was like, oh my God.
yeah. So I found that cool, and a lot of the I know a lot of the stuff with this dragon scale thing feels like it's referencing the terror bears from the RPG, which Sophie Campbell is a massive fan of, the Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness RPG game. And so that kind of I think that kind of comes from there, because they've got little symbols on their stomach, and like Care Bears do, and these characters that have been given the dragon scale have a symbol on their stomach. Um, and so it's kind of cool to see them pulling from that stuff. Uh, and it is interesting. Like I said, I'm trying to figure out what it is, but to me, it just kind of felt like it happened kind of anticlimactically. I don't know if it necessarily is maybe that our characters were like lacking a journey or learning something in it. Like it was just kind of a confrontation, and then boom, it ends after Dr. Barlow being in the background for so long now. Maybe
Mm.
that's what it really is I was expecting it to feel more massive and climactic, especially since Dr. Barlow has been in the background for about a two couple years now.
I guess writing wise,
Well, remember, it's a couple years for us, but only like a couple months for them.
Well, yeah, I mean, a couple months for them, and also we had all of Armageddon game kind of in the middle of it as
Yeah.
an event, and that prolonged it.
I mean I know they I guess the focus they really wanted to have was beyond the Dr. Barlow situation. And I mean, I understand. It was crammed pretty fast. I mean, especially with them like being in the sewers as long as they were. Um, I mean, like kind of leading up to this, some of the fights with. Okay, so instead, like some of the other creatures that they fought before they got to Dr. Barlow, would you have preferred that fight got washed away or got rid of, and then a more intricate battle or fight scene with Dr. Barlow, would that kind of
I,
sufficed?
probably something like that, yeah, or him having someone else there in between the two of them that would fight by proxy, because Dr. Barlow isn't a fighter, he's a
Hmm.
scientist. But I don't know, like you have books like Return to New York from like the Mirage comic days, where the entire store, like the entire three issues that make up Return to New York, are about the turtles infiltrating the foot base, getting in, working their way up the levels of the building until Leonardo eventually faces off with Shredder on the roof. And there's just different elements they use in pacing and things like that, with having big splash pages and other things that build up the suspense and feel really epic with its panel to panel storytelling that just isn't quite there in this story. And I guess that's kind of where I feel like it just didn't feel very climactic, because it didn't while it's been building to this moment technically from the beginning, like the action itself didn't build, or like the pacing of the storytelling didn't create the suspense and the big finality and satisfaction of Face Off to me.
I don't have much of it. I don't disagree with you too much with that, but I don't know. I guess I wasn't as like I didn't those weren't my intentions. Like
Mm,
to me, I was just fascinated with Donatello and this dragon scale because prior I'm not familiar with the dragon scale. That's the next question I was going to ask you guys. Like with the dragon scale and its capabilities going through the IDW series, is it just more is has it recently became like a magic or a power? Because with Shredder, it didn't seem like Shredder had abilities. It seemed like it was just an entity talking to him.
yeah, so this is pretty much like the whole overarching plot from issues 1 to 100 is that Shredder was being essentially groomed by a sort of like demigod character, a member of a pantheon called Kitsune, to be the host of her father, which was like is a destroyer god, a dragon. And so she's been prepping him this whole time to be able to receive him and become like the host for this god. Um,
Mhm.
at the end of City at War, her plan fails, and like the partially constructed dragon, falls and dies. But his scales are spread out, and so people are able to find them and start tapping into their power post 100. And so that's what Barlow's experimenting with.
So they're kind of like powered up, you know. It, think of it. I don't know if you've ever played the Sonic Adventure games, but you have the Chaos Emeralds and then you have the fake Chaos Emeralds.
Okay.
Fake Chaos Emeralds still have power; they're just not fully powered. And that's kind of what the Dragon Scales are. So like they're legit power sources, but they're not like fully powered, and that's kind of why they don't have as much or like Shredder didn't have like full power when he was being groomed, but now there's just all these scattered like little bits of the dragon, like the demigod, the dragon, uh, scattered about. And that's what Barlow's messing around with and attaching to people and himself. And um, I guess my fake Chaos Emeralds analogy didn't work.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense. So it's like basically, I mean, long story short, it's like you're telling me Shredder never saw the full potential of what the Dragon Scale could become, and then whereas we are now,
Yeah, like nobody's seen the full potential of the dragon scale. So like a lot of of the dragon powers, and so the dragon scales are just little bits of that power,
hmm,
and that's all kind of new to post 100. So that wasn't in the pre 100 stuff, because that's what gives Venus all her powers, because she's got like a full dragon scale in her back, in her shell, whereas like everybody else has pieces and slivers of it, because like Dr. Barlow's being real cautious with how much, because he only has so much left, and Venus is named Venus because she was supposed to be his perfect experiment.
the Frankenstein, as you will call it,
Yeah,
of
yeah, the back when she was Franken Venus.
this. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I mean, I don't know. IDW might be my favorite series. I mean, what do you guys have a preference or matter of fact? Or can you guys hear me? It might be my connection.
I
Can't
can,
hear
I
you.
can I can hear you now.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I forgot to ask you guys who you guys' favorite turtle. I guess I'm having problems again.
Uh, Spencer can't hear you.
Okay. Spence. Maybe.
Well,
Yes.
while you guys do that, the older I get, the more I like Donatello.
you go to if you click your settings, maybe your audio and video somehow change issues or something. Having connection. Okay, now I'm good. All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So,
Okay,
Mike,
there we go.
okay, Mike, you said
I was
that.
accidentally on mute. I don't know how long I was on mute for.
Oh, not that long. Not that long.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I was saying the older I get, the more I like Donatello.
Mm-hmm.
I just, I, especially in IDW, I really love what they've done with him and kind of all the traumatic stuff he's gone through.
Mm,
You know, watching him kind of go from like not believing into things to like fully kind of accepting it to now kind of going crazy with some of the stuff that only he's really seen. I mean, him and Venus, but like, and then the reveal at the end of 145 where he created Armagon, like that, and just watching him kind of go crazy from that is really what I want to see play out.
My favorite is definitely Michelangelo.
it's a good old Michelangelo.
Yeah, but with IDW, it really because with IDW, I was kind of a fan of all the turtles in a way because they all get to shine. But in Michelangelo's Macro series issue, where he faces off against Splinter to try and protect these orphans from being forced conscripts into the Foot Clan, for me, he shines a whole ton in that issue, and it just made him my favorite. Like issue 50 to 100 makes Michelangelo just an awesome character that
I
I really
haven't
love.
read 50 to 100. I'm trying to get a hold of issue 51, first appearance of Jenica,
Uh-huh.
for a decent
That's gonna
price.
be rough now.
Yeah, yeah. I had an individual that was just gonna hand it to me. I'm twisting their wrist to get it. Um,
You're going back and collecting the individual floppy issues.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Nice.
pretty much physical. Right now, I'm trying to get a hold of first appearances. Probably I'm gonna get Shredder in Hell. That'll probably be the next series I'm gonna try
I
and
just
collect.
went back and finally because I was missing like 2 issues from that because I had changed comic book stores.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I finally went back and I finally got the issues I was missing. Um, yeah, I've been that was part of what I love about IDW was that this was because it started in 2011. So I was like, this is the first Ninja Turtles comic book series that's starting while I have like disposable income and I can follow it on my own. And so I've been collecting it every issue for 12 years. So I'm not gonna stop anytime soon. Like it's even if it takes me a couple months to go back and read these floppy issues, like I still love picking them up every month because like I'm supporting this book that I love, and then I'll go back when the trade comes out a couple months later. I buy that when I want to reread it. So like I'm dumb, and I started buying the trades back when they were because the trade paperbacks only have like 5 issues in it. This was before they started doing the IDW collections,
Mm.
and so the IDW collections that has everything in reading order, which is perfect. But I'm also 19 trade paperbacks in, and I'm not going to shift now.
Yeah. I'm going. I'm trying to go issue for issue and go through. They got some good. I guess you call them ebook read-alongs on YouTube if you just want to catch up with the story. But I physically need to have them in my hand as well, part of my
Yeah,
collection.
there's
Yeah,
a
I have
what's the channel
the
they're doing? They're
omnibuses.
doing live readings.
Is it like Team? It might be called like Team 4 Star.
No,
I
I
had
mean no, it's not 4 Star
No,
doing
it's not 4 Star. No, because
TMNT.
they're the ones that do the Dragon Ball Z abridged, right? Isn't that
Yeah,
those guys?
I've
Yeah.
got well
Something. I think
on
Star
my
something in their
channel
name.
I think it's Teddy Gaming. he's got voiceover. He does voiceovers. There's another one, just some other issues. Because in the mornings, I went through the whole. Somebody did a good read along with sound effects and actual voice acting.
Yeah.
I had that on YouTube. I had the whole Mirage Volume One freaking done. I had that up as well on my channel.
Yeah, because I saw one that was like for like it's pretty recent, but like I mean, just googling it real quick, there's like five different ones or five different playlists. So um, I'm not. I feel bad not knowing. Oh, Star Force
Star
Media, that's
Force
what it is.
Media.
That's it. Yep, that's it. That's them. That's who I use. That's who I've been using.
So like I've
Yeah,
seen it, but I haven't like sat down to like listen to these. But I mean, just the endeavor is really cool.
yeah.
Thank you.
I'm a really big fan of IDW's collected books, those big collected editions they
They're
have. Those are what I
beautiful.
Oh,
collect.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like the new one that's going to be coming out soon with Baxter Stockman on it,
Hmm.
and just like the Terminator eye, but it's like a mouser. That's so good.
I got
Yeah,
you.
they're super cool, and they just make it so easy to read, especially if you're like trying to get caught up because it's
And
got
those and
everything in order.
and what's great is that those are the versions that you can get on Comixology, as part of your Comixology Unlimited account. You can get the IDW collection, and you can read everything in order.
Oh, and
Yeah.
Jade, you never told us which one's your favorite turtle?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Uh, Raph.
Raph?
Yeah, I've got three Raphael tattoos. Like I'm a Raph head for
Nice.
sure. And then I just Donatello just became my second favorite turtle just as of because of this storyline itself. So I got me a Donatello tattoo like a couple months ago. Yeah, that's my guy. And man, I'm like I know she was like conception wise like everybody cringed at Jenica, but I'm starting to kind of fall in favor of being a Jenica fan.
Yeah,
So
I really liked it, especially conceptually from the get go. Like it's very much like a homage to like the She-Hulk origin of getting like a blood transfusion from this mutant character, and that mutates you. I'm I'm down for it. It just depends
yeah,
on the delivery of the character from here on out.
Mhm.
and we interviewed Tom Waltz a couple of years ago on our show, and this was God. What was it? It was just after 100. Um,
Hmm.
when we interviewed him, and we were talking, and he went into like kind of the creation of Jenica and how it was kind of him and Kevin Eastman and Sophie, like it was all kind of all three of them creating this character. So it's a lot of the common criticism of Jenica is that she's like Sophie's self-insert, and it's like no, like she took the design from a different from a like an OC that she'd created, but Jenica the character is not like a Sophie creation,
I mean,
like
even
not
even
100%.
even her OC though is like it just also uses the color yellow.
Yeah,
Like there's not
that's
really
really the
anything
only
else that's in
similarity.
common. Yeah.
it, it didn't seem so forced, and not to mention like in her human form, she was a formidable martial artist, and
Yeah,
so like you, as far as like just trying to want to just throw in a female turtle, I feel like some time was being taken, and there was some development. If it were to happen, if you know with,
Yeah, well,
within the
she became Splinter's Chunin while she was human, and he was like a father, became like a father figure to her. So
Mhm.
it's not a leap to make her, a part of the family. I
I
do
can't
think that
remember. I
some
can't
things
remember
could have been
if Tom had
executed a
said
little
if
bit better.
that was always the plan for her.
I think that they did. I mean, definitely they just wanted to add a girl turtle. Like he did say that. That lots of girls at comic book conventions would ask him when there was going to be a girl turtle,
Yeah,
and so they wanted to do that. And Jenica just kind of fell into place as the character that would work that way. And so they wanted to bring her in and make her a turtle in the most organic possible way in the story. And I think they succeeded at that.
Yeah, I definitely think it was executed. Some of the other, I guess, plans that they had, I think live. I saw a rumor. I think it was from the Turtle Den channel referencing that in one of the movies they were just going to throw a female turtle in one of the live action movies to be the fourth in the fourth live action film that they were thinking about doing.
So
I don't think that.
that's kind of based on an old concept, and I think you can find pictures of it on I mean, you can find pictures of it on Turtlepedia and like uh Peter Laird's blog. But there was going to be a fourth live action movie called like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Next Mutation.
Mm.
And so Kevin had designed a fifth turtle named Kirby. Uh Whether that was going to be the name in the movie or not, just Kirby is the name that's on the design sheet, and he's wearing a pink mask. He kind of looks like Slash, and then he's got like
Yes, yeah, that's what I was
the
feeling.
Triceraton like knife that that has like the spiked handguard that he loves drawing. um, and so it's a totally edgy '90s design, and all the turtles were going to have these secondary mutations, and Splinter was going to have this secondary mutation, and
Oh,
obviously the movie never got off the ground, which is kind of funny because we just finished our recap of uh, the Next Mutation TV show, and a lot of the concepts, or some of the concepts from that movie, wound up in this show. So for as much hate as like that live action TV show gets, uh, it's got a lot in common with the Mirage like kind of tone and elements of it. It's not a good show by any stretch of the imagination, and
Yeah.
it's the. I
Venus
mean,
is
it's
not
the
the
fillers, of
worst part
course.
of that show,
No,
as like a
yeah.
lot of people like to say. Venus is honestly the best part of the Next Mutation TV show. But there's concepts in it, and characters that really do feel like they belong in the Mirage comic.
I see that.
It feels like the very basic ideas of the characters could be in the Mirage comic books, but between whatever that concept that they developed was and what was written and placed on screen, it's lost. But
Yes, because like the Kirby concept wound up being changed into Venus because of Saban, the people behind Power Rangers. They were producing this show for Fox Kids, and they mandated that there had to be a girl on the team. They had to mimic the Power Ranger style. So Kirby was kind of effectively turned into Venus. They're not the same character by any stretch, but like he got replaced for Venus.
I know Peter probably was. I mean, even though he already had a concept, he strikes me as a person that doesn't like these changes and forcing, trying to a bit of have control over his baby.
Well, I mean and that's kind of the dark era for TMNT for him. Peter is very vocal about how much he does not like Venus, like to the point where it was rumored on the 2003 cartoon you were not allowed to joke about Venus at all.
Mm. I mean, they did a good job with him and with her in IDW. I will at least say that.
yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely. Like her
yeah,
issue, the issue 4 of the Alliance for the Armageddon crossover, which is a lot of what the Donatello story arc is picking up from. Like pretty much the Donatello story arc that we're talking about picks up almost exclusively from the Alliance number 4. Uh, that issue is like Venus's best one. I mean, that's because it's where she does the most since she's been reintroduced to this universe. But it's like it's an amazing issue. Like hands down, it's one of my favorite issues in years from this book.
I was trying to get my friends. Well, my friends aren't as big of shell heads as we are, and I was trying to tell them because they still think we're excited about cowabunga dude and pizza. I'm just like, look, there's some stuff in here, as much as the other content you guys have, and I really was trying to get them involved in during the Armageddon times.
yeah. I think honestly, it is worth it to go back and read those like IDW from the beginning and like read from issue 1 to now. It's a lot of issues, but it's so good that you just fly right through it. It's like I don't know. I flew right through every single one of those collected volumes that I
Yeah,
got in
and a
no
lot
time
of
at
it
all.
a lot of it benefits now from being able to read it all in one sitting, you know, because some of these issues, because I'll admit, like I fell off back, you know, in the mid '70s, um, for those issues. So I missed like the Triceraton war and the trial of Krang. Um, like I missed those arcs, and then I came back towards the end for City at War and the mutagen bomb, and being able to sit down and read all of that in uh, the collected versions makes it so much easier. And that's kind of been one of the big complaints for um, the early Sophie run, the post 100 stuff, you know, because a lot of those issues were coming out, you know, during the pandemic. So those issues were already coming out a lot slower. And you know, Sophie was focusing on this more slice of life stuff. And so that made it feel even slower. And being able to read all of these in one kind of real thing, get through them quick. I think it really benefits people to kind of read it now.
Yeah, I agree. So in the Mirage comics, did 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 was it Bebop or was it Bebop or Rocksteady? No, no, no. In the last Ronin series, was it Bebop or Rocksteady that killed Donatello?
No, so that's IDW. So he doesn't stay dead in
Well,
IDW, of course, because you see him alive
well,
now.
I guess what I was trying to reference was in the
Hmm.
IDW series, the first time that they had interaction with Donatello in the IDW series, he almost killed Donatello. And then I thought it was kind of cool how in the last Ronin series he finally got a hold of the turtle that he had almost killed the first time. And I didn't want to know if you guys like how'd you guys feel when you guys saw that?
Um, I don't think Bebop and Rocksteady were
Yeah,
in the
no,
last
Bebop and Rocksteady
Ronin.
weren't in Ronin.
Hold on. So okay then. So who how did Donatello die? I thought one of them killed him.
So no, so
So
in Ronin, Donatello and Splinter die fighting the Foot Clan because they go to Japan and team up with the rest of the Hamato clan,
Oh my god, hold on.
and they have like a big fight in the snow, uh, and that's where those two die. Which is why earlier when you were talking about like dying in the snow, Spencer and I were like, "Oh, you talking about Ronin?" Um, the the
See,
Bebop and
I don't
Rocksteady
own those.
killing
I only read
Donatello.
comics. I only read comics that I own.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's cool.
you're good,
So
man.
I don't own that first series of the last Ronin. I people kind of filled me in on that, so you guys helped
No,
me out.
it's worth the read.
Hmm.
You know, and as the social guy over at IDW, Greg, always talks about like it's constantly on bestsellers list and like
I've
Ronin
got the
is
novel
going to be the
upstairs.
face.
I want each individual issue. I've got a book. Kevin Eastman signed my last Ronin book. I might have to do that.
Nice.
Sweet.
I have all five of the first prints like right here on my shelf. They're too big for like bags and boards for single issues. Like you have to get like the magazine style ones. But I was
Mhm.
like, I'm just gonna sandwich these between my trades.
Have you
Um,
looked at the price of the originals?
I do, yeah. So
How
I
much is it
because that's
now
the thing is like
for?
I love these. I love these
Ungraded,
books.
ungraded. I've seen the lowest I've seen is about like $70 an issue.
Yeah.
The
So,
low
so
on the low end.
mine will definitely be because I've read it a few times. My fingerprints are all over it because we talked about it on the show. So it's like I'm
Yeah.
analyzing these books. Um, so I mean, mine'll probably be an 8. You know, um, I mean, it doesn't have like bent corners or anything, but you know, the fingerprints alone will probably bring it down.
Yeah, I mean, mine have fingerprints too, and you know, because I've looked through them and read them, but I've got first printing of every single issue
Yeah,
of
and
the
I got the
last run.
director's cut of the first issue. Like, um,
I've got lost years. I just don't have that first set, and I'm thinking about probably in the spring. I might just have to swipe my card. Make sure print because they just first deal.
Hmm. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they have been reprinting it to lead up to Re-Evolution that's coming out
Yeah, so Re-Evolution is going to be
February.
Last Ronin, like the next. Uh, Tom had told me, because I talked to him at San Diego Comic Con, that Last Ronin is kind of a trilogy. So Lost Years is more of like, if you think of it in Star Wars terms, Lost Years is like Rogue One. So it's
Hmm.
not a part of the trilogy, but it sets it up.
Okay. Okay.
The real trilogy is The Last Ronin, uh, the first one, the Re-Evolution, and then a third one after that.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes.
So the Donatello being killed by Bebop and Rocksteady happened in IDW. So he pretty much gets killed by them, and then his with some like quick thinking and stuff, they transfer his soul essentially into Metalhead for a little while Fugitoid
Okay.
works on his body and helps him be able to come back to life. Helps it repair itself.
Yeah.
That answers my question when I was watching that video because they were calling they was calling that metalhead Donatello and it was just like yeah, okay, yeah, I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Just 2 weeks ago I read those issues. I guess I just didn't remember that Donatello died. And
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
actually
And
super cool because later on Metalhead be pretty much like Donatello's there's some of Donatello's consciousness like is still like saved up in backup memory files in Metalhead. And so then he it takes over and it becomes like Donatello in the past and he goes insane seeing like normal Donatello with his body and becomes a villain. It's a really cool story. It's really interesting.
yeah, because and that kind of sets up like you see a lot of that in the side book TMNT universe.
Hmm.
And there's a fantastic cover by Freddie Williams where like he's pulling like the skin off and it's like Donatello's face. He's like pulling his skin off his face and it's Metalhead underneath. It's a fantastic cover. Um,
sounds like a tattoo I might want to add
oh,
on to the
I think you would like that. Um, it's pretty sick. I forget what issue it is, but it's TMNT Universe.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but that's the cool thing about like this IDW book is like they took the risks with that, and this is another thing that Tom talked about in our interview with him. Like they were so nervous about it because the 2012 cartoon was going on at the same time, and that was kind of the face of the franchise. And so you have like comic book websites, picking up that they killed Donatello, and then you have parents that are like they killed the Ninja Turtle, and then like you have to
Yeah.
like they're like no in the comics, and it's like
Mhm.
the comics that your children shouldn't be reading because it's not really for them. Um, but I mean he gets better like 5 issues later, so but I remember it was spoiled for me that 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 had happened to him. And then also my comic book store at the time, because I've changed comic book stores like 5 different times since I started collecting this book. My comic book store at the time gave away my issue. So I couldn't even get an issue 44 when this happened.
I
And
would have
then
been pissed.
I had to try, oh, I was so mad. That's one of the reasons why they're not my comic book store anymore.
Do you have a lot of comic book stores like in a decent radius?
Yeah, so I live in Southern California, so there are a lot of comic book stores kind of between LA County and Orange County. Uh, so
I'm
me,
in Indiana, so everything's like 15 minutes away from each other.
like
Yeah, that's how it is for me too.
I
I'm in
feel kind of
Utah.
blessed because like everything is around me.
Okay.
Yeah, I got so many options. So around me, I think there are at least 6 different comic book stores I can name off the top of my head.
About the same. About the same for Indy.
So
I'm really surprised, but I mean, Indy doesn't have as much going on as you guys do on the West Coast. So trading card games and nerdom, they take very serious in Dungeons and Dragons here. I mean, we host Gen Con here, so
yeah, I've been wanting to go to Gen Con, especially now that the TMNT tabletop RPG like just getting reprinted next year.
mhm.
Um, like that's gonna be wild at Gen Con.
Gen Con's a good time. It's a real good time, and especially like well, since the Super Bowl that was here some years ago, when the All Star coming here this winter, NBA All Star coming here this winter, they've been really trying to build it up so they can entertain more tourists to come to Indiana. So we're stepping it up a little bit.
There you go.
All
Yes.
right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to wrap up and be getting off. I'm at my cap for the time I'm able to spend.
You gave me an extra 15 minutes, so I appreciate you guys. Um, you know, I'll definitely be in touch with you guys Wednesday to ask you guys some more questions.
No,
Yeah,
this was
I'm typically a month behind on the comic because I read them digitally since I also collect the physical books. And
Mhm.
if I wait a month, the issues are half price to buy them digitally. So uh, I won't be caught up on that one till next month. But any questions you have about previous characters, I'll be happy to answer.
I will do. About to say, I got you. I got you. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Spence.
It's been a
Yeah, not a
blast,
problem.
man.
Be in touch with you.
Be in touch.
Be in touch. All right. This is Jay Leno, and I am here with Jamie here to discuss the TMNT IDW series. I'm really excited about this. Jamie, say what's up to the people.
Hey, happy to be here.
Thank you. I appreciate you. All right. So let's get the issue one cover up here for us. All right, so what what a lot of people may not know the of is the huge difference in origin of this IDW series compared to its original series, which I believe started with Archie. Then Mirage had merged over to its own entity, and they did a little bit of work with Image Comics as well. Um, People are normally accustomed to the turtles being pet turtles and being hit with the mutagen, whereas IDW, here you come in, Jamie, to let us know about the origin of the IDW series.
Yeah, for sure. So, what really grabbed me about this series and why I started from day one was the origin. It was just so cool and unique. So, the turtles were predestined to meet their sensei, who is, in fact, their actual father. Back in feudal Japan, the father was, a member of the Foot Clan, very, bad guys, ninjas, and he had a disagreement with the his brother, who ended up beheading him and his sons. Very sad first couple issues.
Graphic, dark, but I mean, this is TMNT,
Yeah,
right?
young little boys. They burned down their house, beheaded the kids, and the dad was like, last moment, I'm going to find you. We're going to be together again. You flash forward to the mutagen backstory that everybody knows, with TCRI and the ooze, and they are reincarnated is the big like reveal.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So and like the original series, the throwback is they all start with these red bandanas, and you'll notice on the first issue, Raph, he has his red bandana, but each variant has another turtle in those same red bandanas, and this is because they don't all start out together. and this is very formative for
Really?
yeah, he actually gets separated and he isn't found by Splinter when they mutate.
See, now I'm really wanting to go to dive
So
into
a lot of
this.
Raph's
Okay. Okay.
personality in the comics is formative by his first days as a mutant because he's alone. He's always like the lone wolf, Mr. Got to do everything himself and hyper protective of his family. So he starts alone in the streets, starving, has no idea who he is or what he is. And all of the brothers are wearing that same colored bandana, and that's kind of their like physical symbol of their lost brother. So their first mission in the series is to find their fourth brother, and I just thought it was so sweet. Um, they don't give up. Eventually, they're reunited, and it's big family hugs all around. It's really cute. Uh, and Yeah, that's after they've completed that mission, they're awarded their individual colors. They can be themselves together, but separately.
Okay. So like, I mean that to me that it makes the story way more
It is
interesting
because
that
it's very
they just
symbolic.
they didn't rekindle or try to like recycle something that they've used in the past. 'Cause I mean, let's just be honest. Like when it comes to series with the turtles, again we've got the Archie, we've got the Tales of TMNT, My Adventures with the Turtles, and then all those other missions as well. And if I'm not mistaken, this is Eastman and his crew excluded from Peter Laird.
That's correct. Yeah, Laird really didn't want to re-enter the series. Much to his uh, regret later when this became so big.
Yeah, it definitely grew more
Mhm.
from a little bit of what I've seen like interview wise is Peter Laird was kind of felt as though that he didn't have a life himself.
Right.
So he kind of became more family oriented, whereas Kevin Eastman he wanted to continue on with what they had created. And I mean, let's just be honest. Kevin Eastman is moving in the right direction, especially with the attention that the last Ronin series had
Oh yeah, for sure. And Tom, he had a big effect too on Kevin. Kevin wanted to be in the series. He wanted to be a part of his creation again. I think he gave a lot of creative power to Tom Waltz in these first 100.
I, I'm really glad that he did. With other comic book series that I've read, like sometimes the originator may come through with some sort of writer's exhaust where you feel like things are drawn out or the creative process isn't the same, and it turns into like to get into like the storyline becomes repetitive, and more minds into it. I mean, look how far this series has came as far as its evolution and growth in characters, and I mean, yeah, from there to go on. I'm trying to think here, like, okay, so we're here at the origin itself. So was Shredder the first villain that they encountered in the IDW series?
Oh my, it was 2011. So hold on.
Okay, I know my fault. I got to jumping the gun in thought because I myself I'm trying to grasp how I want to go about this. I kind of want to jump all over the place, but I'm trying to organize it. My fault. I
No,
can
no, it's again, this has been going on, long running series, one of the longest of the franchise. I think the longest actually. He did surpass. I want to say it was Baxter Stockman.
Baxter Stock. Okay, Baxter Stockman.
Yeah.
So see, I picked up the series around like maybe 120 something, and Baxter Stockman at that point had already been established. I believe he was. I mean, he was a politician and a scientist, if
Yep.
I'm not mistaken. And
He
like,
started
and
a scientist, one of those, rock star scientists with all his new inventions. Very much more into the power gain than the actual pursuit of knowledge. And that led him into a position where, he could take that leadership.
okay, I could see that. So, so and then when how early was Bebop and Rocksteady introduced? I know a lot of people are familiar with the Turtles, but some people don't even know that Bebop and Rocksteady aren't a part of the original comic book story that they were created for the TV series. So I knew that they were introduced into the IDW, but I didn't know if you could remember how soon they were introduced.
Um, I don't. I'm so sorry. I'm drawing a blank here.
It's okay. It's okay.
I'm not
Look. I'm in
great
front of
at
my computer.
going back and rereading. I'm very invested in like the current story. I have them all and they're collecting dust, and I guess I'm not a very good fan.
No, I'm not going to hold you to that. That's what we have the internet for. That's
Oh,
what we're here for. We're not. I mean, I'm not necessarily pressed for time, so I'm about to put that in right now and just see here. IDW first appearance of Bebop. Bebop. So Bebop and Rocksteady were introduced in issue 7.
okay, yeah. So very early on, then my most like
Yeah,
memorable, obviously, of Bebop and Rocksteady was that intense moment where we thought we lost one of the turtles. My favorite turtle,
mhm.
actually. I was like, I can't go on with the series if something happens to him. So, like everything before
Well,
that with Bebop and Rocksteady just seemed inconsequential in my mind.
okay, because one of my biggest questions what that I have for you is as far as the late '80s, early '90s TV show, um, Bebop and Rocksteady weren't really a formidable like villain.
No,
They were
they were
kind of
very much the comic relief, and I think they tried to, from the Power Rangers, which is already so established and great, is the what were they? Bulk and Skull from the Power Rangers. Do you remember them? Yeah, they're kind of the
exactly.
comic relief baddies. Like they were bad, but they weren't
Mm.
scary.
So yeah,
But here,
it,
I mean, that's definitely turned on its head. They are scary. In fact, they come the closest to killing the turtles.
so they are an apparent threat to the turtles. I mean, it
Mm.
makes sense. I mean, look, okay, compared to
They're silly though. I mean,
your average turtle, you've got a rhinoceros that's been mutated and a freaking warhog, not a pig, a warhog.
yeah, they do. They keep some of that goofiness. They have this like banter back and forth where they're very bro. They have a bromance and it's cute, but they're bad dudes.
Okay, nice. Let's look at them. So we got so far. So basically, you're telling me that at the very beginning stages of the IDW series, we get Baxter Stockman, and then I would take it that he's involved in the mutation of Bebop and Rocksteady.
He is, and Hob, who is very large in the series. So Hob has a lot of facets to this villain. Um, and he's employed basically by Stockman. He does his dirty work, and eventually he gets tired of that, and he has this whole rise of the mutants, um, I guess, campaign, which becomes, I don't know if you've gotten to the mutated city yet.
I haven't spoke to it, but I'm familiar with it because I picked it up around like
Yeah,
issue
so Hob
one.
is he's probably a little earlier on than Bebop and Rocksteady, I would say, around the same time too. But he's such a huge part of the story overall. I think that he's worth mentioning alongside.
Oh, nice. Okay, and then as you can, well, if you can see, so in this seventh issue, there's some other characters that people may not be familiar with. That, of course, if you've read the IDW series, you see a lot. But then I guess Alapex made an appearance as well.
Yeah, she's another one of the mutants that is forcibly turned. She's a captured uh, white fox or snowy fox, or I don't, what are they called? They have a term, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Arctic fox. That's what it is. Arctic fox. Um,
Also, Also, I had just found out from the past two issues of that Alopex was Raphael's love interest.
That's correct. For a while.
So yeah, I was like, so like this was like made me want to like really cut in and be like, okay, so when did they introduce these people? So there's not too much. This storyline is way more intricate. It's
It is. They had like a little enemies to friends to enemies relationship.
yeah, yeah. It's its own Turtleverse. To me, this might hurt a lot of people's feelings, but I prefer this over the Mighty Mutanimals. I, if you
Yeah,
are familiar with the Mighty Mutanimals,
absolutely. Yes. The Mighty Mutantables. I mean, I have to love them as well because, Pigeon Pete and all the fun characters that come with it. I love Pigeon Pete.
yeah. No, no,
No, sure.
not
This is,
denying I don't like their existence. I'm just saying that they spend a little more
yeah,
time with character
they did.
development
They
in the
did. And they
series.
really let themselves write what they wanted to read. They weren't following a formula. They weren't dredging up old stories. They were kind of taking the source material and creating a fabric that was more dynamic, I think, from parts that you remember from your past and the different iterations. Like, oh, this is familiar but new. It's fresh. And I
Mm.
just think it's great.
So I mean, it's pretty much. I mean, it was definitely a page turner, like for me. With what's going on recently. Zhang Fei Tong. I gotta see what that is. Okay, it's another character that I'm very that I was that I'm unfamiliar with. So okay, so she's a part of the so the Ghost Boys was the first faction in the beginning of the series. Okay, so they have went through a whole lot of stuff. So I would take it Mutant Town or Mutant City has even existed
No,
yet
nowhere
in
near.
this state.
Nowhere near. They started with, small baddies, busting up everyday average crime, and then they'd throw in the mix, the larger story, the Baxter Stockman and his mutants and his quest for power. And then what really, really like glued me to this series and made me coming back for more is that they put in that what do we call it, the sorry, drawing a blank here.
It's all right.
Um, Armageddon games. The word
Oh,
Armageddon is like left my
so
brain.
so
So
Armageddon Games is the beginning of.
no, no. I mean, there's since the beginning. Like if you go back and look, Armageddon games was always going to happen. There's all these different little nods to something bigger beyond just the turtles and your everyday crime, and then the different organizations and their quest for power over each other. They're all puppets by something larger, and you don't know what that is until you start to introduce this supernatural side, which is super new, right? For the turtles, the turtles are just like hyper violent crime fighters. They fought other ninjas and gangs, but now we've got this like supernatural element, and I think that that's where the series really found itself.
Yeah, I felt like it definitely picked up at that point of the series. So I guess I'm gonna jump middle way middle way into because I definitely am going to eventually get to the
Mhm.
supernatural.
Yeah, and it's
So
hard to be linear with this because there are so many little hints in the beginning.
yeah, I don't want to do too many spoilers, but I still
Right.
kind of want to fill people in because not everybody's going to start from scratch to get to this point. I'm trying to lead people to the
So
slightly
sorry.
lead people to the road to 150. Um, so, would you say was it Doctor X or Baxter Stockman that pretty much led into Mutant Town being created, where the entire city's mixed with mutants and human beings?
Well, it was Hob. It was Hobb's
Hop.
idea.
Okay, hop.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Hob was a creation of Baxter Stockman. It was his abuse of his power and
Now,
his
am I
abuse of
getting Hob
Hob
and Doctor X?
created.
Are they the same person or is this a different person?
Um, are they? Do they call him Doctor X?
Let me see here. Because okay, I thought Doctor X was the one that created pretty much did the experiments on Venus. that Venus just killed in the last the more previous
Oh
issue.
no, that's oh, what's his name?
Because if I'm talking about the wrong character, I got to get a
That
picture of
guy,
him.
right?
Yeah, right. Okay, so I'm gonna look. I'm gonna get a nice picture of Hobbs.
Hob is our cat, our alley cat, with the one eye.
Aha, old Hob,
Mhm.
the one-eyed mutant. Here we are. So about to switch over to give people a visual
So
reference.
Barlow is who you're thinking of, I think.
Yes, Barlow is who I'm thinking of.
Okay.
All right, so here we go. Old Hob.
Right. So it's hard to not segue into the Armageddon games again because Barlow is basically the champion of, the Rat King.
Mm.
So he's the puppet of the Rat King, one of them. But it is Hob who decides that the only way to have any kind of freedom or power over himself and his people is to create more. Like you can't isolate and um, belittle an entire race if it's the whole city. So he's like, okay, fine. If you're not going to treat us well as mutants, then we're all going to be mutants.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
And so, hence, is this
created his
why
bomb,
why it's raining mutagen in this
right?
picture?
Yep. He is the one who, he and his little rebel gang created this plan to create the mutagen bomb and create a city of mutants for himself and his people. And the unwilling citizens who fell victim to that reign of mutagen.
This is already getting this like
And
I,
his character, like I said, it's so many facets because you feel for him, right? He's
yeah.
beaten and abused, and he's has no place in society and no rights, and you want him to find peace and happiness, but he unfortunately, when you're introduced to all these negative things, a villain is created.
Yeah. But at the same time, okay, when it great stories are able to capture a villain in both the light and its darkness at the
Exactly.
same
Yep. Very much. And you can see, you feel for him, you understand why he is who he is and why he's doing what he's doing. But he's not right. You're still looking at a villain and you're still like, this is the baddie. It's very dynamic, and he's one of the big reasons why this series is just amazing. It's not bad guy versus good guy.
if they got some good enough art of this guy, I might put him. I've got a couple of
I mean,
Ninja Turtle
he's a cool
tattoos,
dude.
so I'm definitely gonna put him on a shirt.
Yeah.
I'm
I
definitely gonna put him
mean,
on a shirt. I might consider him being my next tattoo because this is
that would
what
be a good one. One-eyed alley cat in a trench coat.
I'm telling you, right? If done properly. Well, I've met one of the artists that actually have been working on. I did an interview with I think it's Gavin Smith
Oh,
who
he's
did.
been on. Yep.
Yeah, I met him at the Indianapolis Comic Con, or was it PopCon? One of the two, one of the conventions down there, and he kind of was like foreshadowing, let me know, because at that time that was the I think that was is that 139 or 140 with Donatello on the cover with the books.
Yep. That's 143, maybe.
143. Okay.
That's a pretty
So yeah.
recent one.
So yeah. So I got he couldn't reveal too much to me
142.
within the interview, but through his work, I definitely let him know that I appreciated like all the artwork that they do, because I mean, of course, people are used to seeing things animated and moving, but to be able to
Mhm.
capture the environment and everything that goes on per page and per panel in a comic book, I think they do very well.
Yeah, no, I can't agree more. And on that, I think in the road to 100, the big new flavor was definitely Sophie Campbell and everything she brought
Mhm.
to the series, the issues, including their. I mean, I don't have any other way to say it, but their more effeminate art style that came with her way of telling a story. Like the
Elaborate.
they're softer, their heads are rounder.
Okay, yeah.
It's kind of cute. It's like the My Little Ponies of turtles, and I was like 100% on board with that.
Okay. See, I never thought of it that personally I never thought of it that way, but when you say that, I did feel as though like towards the end of this that like facially I could recognize their emotions a bit more.
Yeah. And what she also brought was there was a lot more of the turtles just being, right? Just existing and doing normal things that people would do. And you don't it's not all violence and grit anymore.
Yeah.
And that I mean that was really big.
I've got a question. Did you read the Out of Time annual issue that came out over the summer?
Yeah.
So was that candid to this storyline?
The Out of Time does have, I mean, you certainly can skip it and not lose anything, but there are little bits here and there that you're going to catch
Well,
as the series progresses. And the great thing about the Ninja Turtles is you will see little footnotes in white, every little like nod that you might miss because of a spin-off or an offshoot or a standalone. They'll let you know, like, hey, if you want to know more about what's going on here, go read this one.
yeah. Because I mean one of the things I recognize that how that Raphael from a different timeline came in to warn everybody. Well, he came there to kill Donatello first off, and he pretty much said that is it Armagon, him Donatello and Armagon have something to do with the future of the race of the turtles and everybody in
Yeah.
general.
Yep, and I mean that's kind of a big spoiler though. It's
Yeah,
pretty far
well,
ahead.
yeah. So basically, yeah. This that's why I had to bring it up for us going on to the road to 150 because the out of time issue pretty much lets you know where the future is going to end up if changes aren't made, and we don't know which change in particular has happened since then because obviously Donatello just got this buff and started using magic.
Mm-hmm. That was yeah. Very, well, they did have a little kind of soul searching thing, and this is later from the road to 100. It's kind of a big spoiler, but they do encounter magic. They become, and back to that, spiritual element. They really hone their key, their chakra and their spiritual energy. They're not just the crime fighting ninjas in a physical way, but they're growing beyond that and finding other ways to fight.
Yeah, yeah.
And those are kind of like a mysticism, flavor that they're really adding to it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Do you have any familiarity to the introduction to the Dragon Scale?
I do, yes.
See,
Yeah,
see,
that
I drew a blank of what the Dragon Scale is capable of and what its entity withholds itself because again,
mhm. So
with
Armageddon game, it's back to that,
okay, okay,
unfortunately.
okay, that's
We
fine.
can't it's Armageddon is such a huge part. Everything that happens in this story is a machination of these deities, these ancient gods, and they're all siblings, which kind of mirrors that the brothers are siblings. They're all siblings under the dragon, who is their father. And Alapex is Kitsune's basically avatar, her main playing piece. We have the Rat King, who comes from uh, some of the older series, and he has the Doctor, and we've got a bunch of other players too. They're all siblings. They're playing this huge game against each other for because they're bored. They're immortal, right? So
Oh,
that's what they do.
side
Is
note,
in the
The Armageddon games, you get the opportunity to see a lot of enemies become allies in these
Mhm.
games.
You do, yeah. The forges, of allies are made and they're broken and they kind of regroup and but nothing really happens by chance. Everything is destiny and interwoven and it's all being kind of steered by these deities in this kind of twisted game to see who can have dominion over the earth. And their father, who had been asleep for a long time, was this dragon, and the dragon scale is they're basically a piece of their father, which is where the mutagen actually comes from.
So not science. So in IDW, it's not
Science, I mean,
necessarily
it's
science.
science, it's magic, it's all kind of woven together, very intricate.
Okay. So would this be some of the doctors in within this series prior making their own synthetic version of the dragon scale, or taking bits and pieces of its DNA and creating what they want, and then what the dragon scale would be its mutation at its like purest form of substance, if I'm making sense.
Yeah, very much. I think that you've got that boiled down really well.
Okay. So that makes okay, that makes sense. So the dragon skill has capability, of course, transforming somebody from an animal to a mutant. Is there any signs of the dragon scale doing resurrection, having any other properties or benefits?
Yeah, the dragon scale has a lot of properties for healing, resurrection, power. It's basically like an energy source, a life force.
Dragon, so okay, and so it seems like there's not too many scales left when we come back. So periodically, so the Armageddon games is when we learn about these dragon scales. So have they just extracted these dragon scales through this, or
The Foot Clan, way back to issue one, when the Foot Clan, in feudal Japan, they were influenced directly by the dragon, who needed an avatar, and their avatar was to be the Shredder,
mm,
Oroku, Oroku, right?
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
and he is the dragon reborn. So one of the other deities, Kitsune, who's like the beloved daughter and wants her father to be reborn as the dragon, she leads Shredder, who is her, one of her playing pieces, to the mutagen and to the power, and she's trying to basically have him reincarnate as the dragon. So it's all given, it's already been here on this earth from a long time ago.
Okay, let me see if they have an image of the does the actual dragon itself, or dragon skull, have an image?
Yeah, you'll want to look in the Shredder in Hell series. They really get into that there because this is his internal battle. Is he Shredder? Is he the dragon? Who's in control?
See, I gotta get Shredder in hell. Oh gosh, I am.
It is.
Oh,
It's amazing. If you have to read only one offshoot, only one spinoff, it's Shredder in Hell.
yeah, I gotta read Shredder now. I'm like, where have I been? Where have I been in life tonight? I'm so glad you responded
I'm telling you, it's everything. It's
to
demon,
me.
it's ninjas, it's samurai. It's incredible.
Like, yeah. So okay, so
There's the dragon, and the dragon is inside of Shredder. This is internal struggle between these two consciousnesses because the dragon really wants to take over his body. He wants to come back to Earth and control it.
I mean, how powerful has this Shredder been in this series? Like,
The Shredder has been powerful in the way that you're used to, in that he's a master tactician. He has an army of ninja that he recruits, and very much like our beloved 90s, 80s movies.